distance in the light, vibration of
Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and this is the My Sober Addiction podcast. And we are happy, healthy, wealthy, loved, and free. And loved ones, on the YouTube channel, I have gone full-blown, woo-woo, all the way out there. What I mean is, you see, I've always kind of wanted to get off into the weeds a little bit, maybe, on the conspiracy theory stuff. But really, it's always to do with the positive side of things. You know how in the past, I've mentioned how the human collective are on a negative trajectory, but also the human collective, while we are made up of billions of divine sparks of the Creator, each of us having an experience, but somewhere along the way, I believe, humanity have lost our way, and we just kind of congealed into one mass of just one consciousness. And unfortunately, humanity are going on a very negative trajectory, very negative path. But occasionally, those of us who have awakened to this, we realize, hey, I am an individual. I'm an individual unit of consciousness, and I'm going to separate myself from that collective and move forward on my own trajectory rather than participate in what's going on with the collective. And yes, I realize we must live amongst the collective, but that doesn't mean that we have to live in the same bubble as they do. Our good friend Clive shared a video, and in the video it was talking about how in this world we have people who are very wealthy, and we also have people who are very poor, and they occupy the same space. They live on the same planet, but they live in very different worlds because one's world is this way, the other one is that way. Their lives are completely different. It would appear as though they live in different worlds, although they live virtually side by side. What I've been getting at, though, is with regards to sobriety, newfound sobriety and spiritual awakening, in a lot of cases, do kind of go hand in hand. What I mean by that is, in a lot of cases, when we do get sober, we get clean, we get away from that lifestyle, we find ourselves in a bit of an identity crisis. The reason for that is because we, for so long, were caught up in that lifestyle. Maybe we're a crackhead, or we're a junkie, or we're this, or we're that. But the point is, we get so wrapped up in that druggy lifestyle. Then when we get sober, we find ourselves in a bit of a dilemma. It's like, well, I can't live that lifestyle anymore, obviously. But I lived that for so long, I don't even know who or what I am anymore. If I'm not that, then what am I? I've said many times on the podcast that getting sober is an opportunity to redefine your version of self. It's an opportunity for you to wipe the slate clean and then rebuild it back the way you would like to see yourself. So it's like for so long, like in my case, you were a junkie, you were chasing dope, staying on the hustle, staying on the grind, and trying to stay ahead of everything, staying in touch with other druggies and drug dealers, and just totally consumed and engrossed in that whole lifestyle. Then when we got sober, it's like, well, geez, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Now that I'm not doing that, what am I going to do? Now that I'm not that anymore, what am I? And that is an opportunity that most people, well, I shouldn't say most people don't get. I mean, everybody's got an opportunity to redefine themselves, but most people are never really posed with that question. It's like, well, now that you're not that, what are you going to be? And you can build your personality from the ground up. You can become somebody else. You can become something else. And that is a great opportunity. It's like, well, what do you want to be? The other side of that is also when we get sober, we also have, as I've said before many times, we have an immense amount of momentum going in our lives. Meaning, when we went into rehab or whatever the case may be, we were usually at rock bottom. Couldn't get any lower. We were all the way down the spiral to the point where we're just sitting at the bottom, just churning. Well, when we got sober, we got clean, we came out of rehab, got a new lease on life, everything's going good, we're going to meetings, we're building some new community, we're meeting some new people, and life is good. And the amount of momentum we have going for our lives at that point is huge, because we come up out of that rock bottom at warp speed. And dear loved one, you got to understand, people who are in business, maybe entrepreneurs, maybe salespeople, that's usually something that they put most of their work into, is building some momentum. See, I used to be in sales, and that is one of the things that you really need. You need momentum. Once you get a good head of steam going and you're writing a lot of business and you're just really cranking it out, like they say, activity breeds more activity. So most people in business or sales or whatever, they really push hard to get momentum building in their life, in their careers. That's not easy. That's a hard thing to do. And that's another opportunity that we have coming out of addiction, coming out of active addiction. Once we do get sober and we get out of rehab or wherever we are and we hit the ground running, we already have a crazy amount of momentum built and rolling instantly. So I've often said, don't squander that. Don't waste that momentum, right? So we have two opportunities when we get sober. We have an opportunity to redefine ourselves. We can be that cool guy that we always wanted to be. We can be whatever it is we want to be. Redefine who you are as a self. And that's not the only chance that people have to do that. It's just, that's a time in our lives when we have to do it. It's like, look, I have to become someone else. I can't be that anymore. So I have to become someone. So that's usually when it happens. But we don't have to wait for that to happen. If you've been sober now for years, you can still do that. You can still redefine who you are. It's just most people don't do it. That's all. But we're not most people. You're not most people. You're a survivor. You've been through a lot. You've been through hell and lived to tell the tale. So here you are. I'm going to urge you that if there's a version of self, if there's a way that a certain lifestyle or a certain person you would like to be, become it. Embody it. Just begin doing it. And then there's also the momentum. When we realize how much momentum we have going for our lives, just by virtue of getting sober, just by virtue of getting clean and starting that new direction in our life, it's like a rocket. It's like, as I said, warp speed. We're blasting up out of rock bottom at warp speed. It's amazing. And it's an opportunity that most normies would only dream of getting. It's an opportunity that most normies would envy. Really? Getting back to the whole spiritual awakening part. A lot of times we are faced with, when we start going to meetings and things, we're faced with religion. And like in my case, I had a really bad overdose, and I did experience something during that overdose, and it couldn't be explained by conventional explanations. That's when I started revisiting that, and I started thinking back on it. I'm like, what was it that I experienced when I was out of it? When the paramedics had given up on me and said, yeah, this one's gone. Can't save them all, right? Of course, I didn't sober up at that time, so I was still busy chasing. But now that I had time to reflect, I now had time to read and research and try to figure out, what was that? I finally did figure it out. I figured out that, hey, I was in what would be called the quantum realm, or out in the ether, where God creates from. That was what I experienced. And that caused me a spiritual awakening. That caused me to question religion, question organized religion. But what I lost in organized religion, I gained in spirituality. I now have more faith in a creator. I now have more faith in God than I ever did before. So there's that. But then there's the other side of that. Some people get a little, they go the other way. Instead of going the spiritual route, maybe they go the strictly materialist route. Maybe they think, what's the use in any of this? And they get very nihilistic. And in those cases, I don't really know what to say. I would say in either case, though, don't get overwhelmed by that. Don't let it bog you down. I see a lot of people who get bogged down by spirituality. Maybe they are like I was, searching for answers. It's like, what was it that I experienced? So now they're searching. They're searching for truth. They're searching for answers. They want to know, what is it? What is the meaning of life? I went through that. There must be some reason why I went through that. What is my meaning now? I went through hell in addiction. I gained spirituality. But what am I to do with this? People get very overwhelmed by those questions. And when that happens, I say, look, we are in this world, and it's no big secret that my views of the world are a little different, I guess. I believe that it is Maya, which is an illusion, but I also believe that your perception is whatever your perception is, meaning what's real to you is whatever you are currently perceiving. So this world we are currently perceiving. Okay, it seems very real. Now, when we imagine an out-of-body experience, when we imagine someone, I don't know, astral traveling, for example, we imagine that it would be like some very etheric, very mystical experience. But people who actually do that describe it as not that. They will usually tell you, hey, when I was in that state, it was very real feeling. That state, when you're in it, feels just as real as this state does now. And to me, that was fascinating. I'm like, so when you are out of body or whatever the case may be, whatever your beliefs are, that seems just as real there. It's like, yes. And then I guess a more common way to explain it is when we are sleeping and we're having a dream. When you're having a dream, it can be something very strange landscapes, maybe very strange circumstances, just people around you. Everything about it could just be very, very bizarre. And when you wake from that dream and then you think back on it, you think, God, I mean, maybe you think about the landscape. You think, well, yeah, that was very strange. Everything was just so, I don't know, just very weird. And then maybe the people around you were very weird, or maybe it's like talking animals or whatever the case may be. But you think back on that dream and you think, God, man, that was freaking weird, man. But then you realize, while I was in that state, it seemed very real. Isn't that weird? And that's usually what blows our minds more. First thing that blows our minds is we realize, God, that was weird. That was very strange. But then was like, well, what's even more strange is the fact that when I was in that state, it seemed just as real as this does now. Even though I'm looking back on it and thinking, dude, that was crazy. Even though I'm thinking that now, I still remember enough of it to know that while I was in that state, it was very real. And that to me is fascinating. That to me tells you that whatever your current reality is, what is your state. What your state is, what you are perceiving. So whatever you're perceiving currently is what your reality is. And that's what seems real to you. That's really all I'm getting at. That was just a very long way around it, but that's what I'm getting at. To go a little bit further, if we, like after we do pass on from this life, and we get on the other side, and whatever that other side is, I got to believe that when we get there and we look back on this life, one of the things that will probably blow our minds is like, God, that was that was weird. That was like a crazy dream. But yet it seemed so real at the time. It's like your life that you're living right now. I mean, nothing gets more real than this, right? It's like, yeah, I'm looking around. This is all very real. How about after you pass on and you look back on this moment, you think, wow, that was weird. And what's even more weird is the fact that it seemed real at the time. So, anyway, that's what I mean when I say your perceptions. But I do believe that with regards to spiritual awakening and active addiction, and more specifically with sobriety, we do come into some kind of identity crisis. We do have those big questions of what's it all about? Why am I here? Why did I go through that? And we start searching. And in a lot of cases, we can get bogged down in the search. We can be searching for the answers and maybe meditating, maybe going to a lot of meetings, maybe even going to church, doing a lot of study, doing a lot of research, looking for the answers. Because in a lot of cases, we want to know, hey, I went through that hell. I went through all that shit with the addiction. I want to know what the point of that was. What am I supposed to get from that? Is this something I chose before I came into this life? Because some people will tell you that it is. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm just putting that out there that is a belief. When we start looking for those answers and we start thinking, what is this? Here I am. Here's what I know. I am here. I am here now. I've had my experiences. I've got the rest of my life to live. I want to live it as best I can. I want to be a positive influence. I want to have a good life. But what the hell is it all about? What am I doing? And it can get very overwhelming. It can bog you down. And dear loved one, that's when I'm like, stop. Take a step back. Just stop for a second. Take a step back. As I said in a recent video on YouTube, stop and smell the roses. Stop and smell the roses. We are in this life. And as weird as it may seem afterward, right now, it's very real. Right now, we are in a very real 3D physical reality. Right now, you need to sometimes stop and smell the roses. Sometimes you need to take it in. Just take it all in. This world is beautiful. This world is so diverse. There's so much diversity of geography. There's so much diversity of just life in general, plant life, animal life, and then diversity of cultures. You can go from desert landscapes to frozen tundra, which aren't that much different really. Or you can go from in the Swiss Alps or the Rocky Mountains, or you can go to the Caribbean, beautiful, lush, tropical rainforest and such. There's so much diversity of life, landscapes, climate, cultures, plant life, animal life, so much to explore here. There's so much to explore. So when you get bogged down, when you get overwhelmed, when you start thinking, geez, I just can't do all this. What is it all about? Don't worry about it. Take a break. Go out and enjoy something. Go for a walk. Go out in nature. It's amazing when you get out there and you explore planet Earth. Or as I call it on the YouTube channel, server Earth. Oh yeah, I go there. I go all the way in there. It's a server Earth. But anyway, it's beautiful. And even if it is server Earth, it's still a copy of something. So don't get freaked out by that. I'm not going to go any further on that right now. Just wanted to throw that in there. Don't get freaked out. I just encourage people to don't get bogged down. For a couple of reasons. One, it just doesn't do you any good. Getting bogged down, getting overwhelmed with searching for answers. And I know, dear loved one, you want answers, especially when you've been through the hell of addiction. You're like, I need answers. I need to know why. Why did I do that to myself? Whatever. But the point is, you want answers. I know you do. But don't get so overwhelmed that you, God forbid, relapse, or you just say to hell with it all and become nihilistic and let it all go and just say, screw it, there's no meaning to anything, because that's certainly not true. You know, some people might be like, how do you know that, Matt? How do you know there's meaning? I just do. I've seen it. I've seen it from the other side. I know. I don't just have faith. I don't just think. I don't just hope that there is more to this. You are more than you appear to be. I know you are. I've seen that. I've seen it from the other side, and I know we are far more than we have ever been taught. We are far more than we can even imagine. But if you get bogged down, if you're getting overwhelmed, searching for the answers, just stop and get out there and enjoy this beautiful place that we live in. Get out there and enjoy this beautiful world. I guarantee there's a wooded area close to where you live that is just amazing. Sometimes if you just get down on the ground and look at some of the really small things going on with regards to moss and stuff like that, that might sound kind of silly. It probably does to someone who's like, okay, so you're telling me to go crawl around in the woods and look for moss. Well, if you put it that way, yeah, that's going to sound kind of dumb. I get it. I'm telling you, go out and explore. And maybe when you're doing those meditations, when you're searching for the answers, go someplace like that. Get some fresh air, really clean out your lungs good. That exercise that I have said before, where we completely empty our lungs to the point where we're like, completely exhaling to the point where we're like, I got nothing left I can push out. And then we hold that as long as we can. And then we fill our lungs up to the point where we feel like they're about to bust. And we hold that. And then we completely exhale that again. What that does for you, for one, is it flushes out all that stale air that is in your lungs. Think about it. When you're breathing, you are not fully doing this. So there's air in your lungs that's kind of been sitting there. It's a little stale. So when you do that, you flush out all the old air and you get completely fresh new air in. So I'm going to encourage you, get out in nature and do that. Do that breathing exercise. Do that 3 to 5 good times. Completely flush it all the way out and then completely fill it up and then flush it out again. And, you know, like I said, do that about 3 to 5 good times. You'll feel amazing. You will most likely feel like meditating after that. You will most likely feel like exploring. You're going to want to do something that will help you expand your consciousness. You're going to do something that will help you discover yourself. And I do mean that in 2 words, yourself. Because people who have given up addictions, no matter what they are, and a lot of times we find ourselves with a lot of time on our hands. We find ourselves stuck in our heads a lot and asking a lot of questions, right? And when we find ourselves in that way, it can be easy to get overwhelmed. And I am trying to encourage you to do things that will alleviate that overwhelm. Is that the right word? Is that what I'm looking for? But you can still do all these things and pursuing your awakening, or pursuing your quest for truth or meaning or whatever it is that you're looking for. So anyway, loved ones, that's what I've got on that. And yes, the YouTube channel, I am wanting to rename it. Right now it's just Matt Stevens, and that's fine. But I think I'm going to name it like a full-blown like channel name. I'm looking into it. But still, if you need to reach me, you can still find me at mysoberaddiction.com. Also, I am on X still. That is Matt Stevens, MSA. I do post everything that I do there, all the videos, all the podcasts. If I find some funny memes, I will do that as well. So, yeah. And I do know that this week's episode, this one you are listening to, is a couple of days late getting out. I recorded it and it just wasn't up to par. I've done this many times where I've recorded entire episodes, and then I've even had a few where I completely edited them all the way out, and then I'm like, yeah, no, nope, I'm not putting that out. So that happens. Anyway, loved one, Currently, I am reading a book called Quantum Spirituality by a guy named Peter Canova. So far, it's very interesting, and I do recommend it, although I haven't gotten very deep into it yet. But Quantum Spirituality by Peter Canova, if you are interested. And besides that, dear loved one, that's what I got. I do love you. I truly do. And I will be back directly.
There is a